That's enough. It goes on and on. Now, every time they stop him in the groin, every time they beg, his demonic whale song, whales have a beautiful song, but our troops, you just heard the song. The demon song is, I guess, what I would coin the term for. This is demon song. This is demonic praise. Christian, music would be beautiful choral, hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn king, uplifting. But this is demon song. What do you think of that, Mike Rivera?
Well, I listen to this stuff, and I'm flashing back to the revelation that the U.S. government has actually been drugging our troops, giving them speed and all kinds of things so they can get more work out of them in the combat zones. And I'm beginning to wonder if there are some other chemicals at use here that are just turning these kids into such inhuman, insensitive monsters, because it is scary to hear this and realize these are human beings. I don't even want to admit that I'm the same species as these people when I hear these sounds.
Well, it's funny you'd say that. 5 years ago, it was 6 years ago, in fact, pull this up. It was a Wired magazine story called The Marshall Plan. It's not what weapons our troops will have in the future, but what drugs they will be on. And they admit that they're giving aggression drugs secretly to the troops. Then they give them an amnesic similar to Halcyon to not remember it. And they've done drills where they order them. And remember, Bruckheimer was in the Ithaca Times years ago saying, oh, yes, we go in and kill everyone in the village, men, women, and children. We line the kids up and shoot them in the back of the head. And then the Pentagon came out and said, well, only certain villages. And so they give them drugs to do it. Then they give them amnesics. Our troops are under mind control.
It's a very scary situation. They're being turned into robots. We're seeing it in the videotape. They're conditioned to see anything as a threat and to open fire on it. And it's scary. I mean, it's almost like the scenes from Terminator, where people are down on the ground and these robotic machines are in the sky killing everything that moves. And it doesn't matter that there's a real flesh and blood pilot. If they're juiced up on all these chemicals, they're still robots. They're organic robots, but they're still robots, and they're killing everything that moves. I can't imagine that Reuters news service is going to treat this issue very, very gently. It did take CNN a day to finally come forward and cover this WikiLeaks story. But I think the media has to be looking at all the dead reporters that we're seeing in the war zones and realizing that maybe cutting the government slack on these wars isn't such a good idea, because they could be next. They could
exactly.
Be the next.
Here's another video to search of hundreds. It was another Reuters reporter. Tank kills Reuters reporter. And he's out front in the street with his camera. He's videotaping with a full crew. They just drive right up and machine gun him from the top of the tank. I mean, there's been so many of these, but they're hardly ever on U.S. TV. But as you said earlier, the entire world is seeing this every day and knows that the United States is the Legion of Doom. And for people that say, oh, kill all them Hajis, they're not human, the bankers see you as not being human as well. That's why they're announcing they're preparing to take all of your pension funds and bank accounts for the banks in the next banking takeover, in the next crisis they stage. So remember, all of you out there that have turned into demons supporting this, by extension, remember, the same elite sees you the way they see the Hajis, as they call them, the ragheads, that with those type of racist statements. And obviously, ladies and gentlemen, things are only going to get worse from here. And everybody's kind of forgotten about the wars because Obama's in and he's continuing to torture everything else. Mike Rivera, straight ahead. We'll be right back. Now, see, the issue here is they find a guy with some wood he's gotten out of a field. I've watched the whole Frontline piece. This is what they're cooking their food with. And they say, no, this is how we win your hearts and minds. You were caught getting some wood. We're now going to shoot your car up and laugh, then run over it back and forth with a $2 million tank that could damage the tank, and then laugh at you. They laugh. It's an enjoyment. They kill dogs. It's an enjoyment. Mike Rivera.
Yeah, it is not an image that we, the American taxpayers, want to see out in the world, because we pay for it all. And ultimately, in theory, we're responsible. These public These troops are the public face of America, and we're all being told that we're bringing democracy to these people, that we're there, that they're supposed to be welcoming us with flowers, and then we get this slap in the face that our troops are behaving just like the Nazis in occupied territory. And, years from now, I'm sure they'll be making movies about the American troops, and they'll be portrayed on the screen the way we now portray the Nazis, as these inhuman monsters that take incredible delight in what they're doing. And by the way, as a little historical footnote, the Nazis were real big on drugging their troops as well. They were using more natural chemicals like St. John's wort and valerian root. They were giving their troops this stuff.
Oh, they were giving them. They were also giving them anabolic steroids.
And methadone was invented by the Nazis, I understand, as a battlefield drug to make them stronger, more fearless, to see better in the dark, and to basically feel no inhibitions whatsoever about going out and doing what they were doing to the targeted populations. So we're following along in a very ignoble tradition, if you will. And with regard to this targeting of reporters, I was thinking during the break, back during the initial invasion of Iraq in 2003, where the journalists were all put in this one hotel in Baghdad, and I remember this video where this tank across the block, this traffic circle, literally turned and shelled the hotel where the press was located, and there were signs identifying that this was the media center and everything. And afterwards, the military was making jokes about it and said, "Well, I had my finger on the trigger," and they had a big sign saying "press." So, and aha, and it's very, very funny. But yeah, even back then, the military were killing the reporters. They didn't want them around to see.
Well, there was a London Guardian article where the reporter was with the Marines, and they got a 50 caliber rifle in Basra, and this woman's walking with children in her hands, leading them, and they said, "Look at that bleeper," called her a name, and they placed bets, and it was 1,000 yards away on whether they could blow her head off. Then they blow her head off, and they have a big celebration, and then back at base, the reporter confronts them, and a bunch of Marines chant, "We love killing kids." And it turns out the Marines now have a chant about go out in the school ground, let the little bastards gather around, mow them down, throw the candy on the ground, watch the little bleepers gather around, then mow them down. I mean, this is demonic. I mean, they might as well start wearing devil horns or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is not the image of the war that we're being fed here at home, where, our troops are really good guys and they're being welcomed and everybody loves them and we only ever target the bad guys. And yet we're seeing from all of these various theaters, whether it's Pakistan or wherever, that the U.S. government is killing 40, 50 non-combatant civilians for every one suspected terrorist. And again, we don't really know if there was anybody there that needed, that justified that kind of an attack.
Plus, we're invading them. They weren't involved in 9/11. No one even says that now. But what about all the cases where they go into a family, rape them, and then kill everybody to cover it up?
And then dig the bullets out, which we're getting another report about that in Afghanistan.
Yeah, in fact, I forgot to get that and send it to you. A New York Times, Pentagon admits cover-up in village massacre. So that's there. And then Pat Tillman was going to come home and expose the whole war as a fraud, so they fragged him. They murdered him. Mike, stay there. We're going to come back and play this raw video. Now, I want to, in two parts, it's a 7-minute video. We'll play part of it now, get Mike Rivero's take on it, maybe keep Mike a little bit in the next hour if he can do it, and play the rest of the video. Then Jesse Ventura is coming up. But I wrote some notes last night on points I want to make about this gun pod footage and how they're going after WikiLeaks now. Again, the media's response saying this is no big deal, this is okay. But then Tony Schaefer, the colonel who tried to stop 9/11, he went on MSNBC this morning and said, wait a minute. And he read the rules of engagement and said, they're pulling up, there's no weapons, there's wounded. This is a violation of military law, U.S. law, and Geneva Convention law to open fire on these people getting wounded into a vehicle. We know this is illegal, and if the military was to charge these officers that had done this, then it would send a message not to do this. But instead they run PR events where they charge a Navy SEAL guy for punching a detainee in the nose to make it look like they're keeping the troops from doing their job. Again, those are all psyops. So you can rape and kill women. You can kill children, that's okay, but don't punch somebody in the nose. This is all psyops to make it look like they're tying the hands of the troops when really they're forging them into demons. Now, here's a 7-minute video we're going to upload to YouTube. It's a clean version with all the cuss words and things cut out of it, we hope. But here it is for the first time here of the event from 2007 that was leaked yesterday by WikiLeaks. Here it is.
Walking by, and one of them has a weapon. Roger, received, Carter.